Hello and welcome back to another episode on the channel. Today, in the last video you would have seen the beautiful XR8 that our boy Steve has gotten, and now we're doing the first upgrades to it. So we've still got the old rotors on here. It does have some Bendix Ultimate pads. We already did a video on that on the FGX, and today we're chucking on some DBA T3 rotors for the front and the back. So these will be a lot better than the stock ones, and matched with those Bendix Ultimate pads, they'll really pull this car up nicely. So we shall start doing the how-to video now, I guess. Always remember, when you're undoing wheel nuts and shit, crack them when it's on the ground so that the wheel doesn't spin. Doesn't matter so much when it's on the back because you have a handbrake that can stop the wheels, but when you're doing your front wheels, you want to have the wheels all loosened off before you jack it up. Don't take them off the car, but just loosen them enough so you can then ugga-dugga them off. Unless you have an ugga-dugga gun, then use the ugga-dugga gun. So they're all been done. We'll jack the car up, undo the wheel nuts, take the wheel off, and then it's pretty straightforward. Oh, that's nasty. That's nasty. So to get these rotors off, because they're not bolted to the actual hub or anything, all you gotta do is take off your caliper. So there's 2 bolts on the back here. Yeet it over, and then this will just pop off. Sometimes they can seize on there. If they do, just hit a hammer and give them a few taps. If not, get the gas axe out. The rears will be slightly different, obviously, because the rears have a handbrake built into the inside, which we'll talk about once we get it apart. But yes, we'll get that. So with the XR8s, obviously the front brakes are a lot bigger than the standard XR6 that we did have, or Steve did have. So that's why he's gone and, instead of swapping the brakes over, he's gone and got new ones. So that's it. We should be doing these while we're here, but Stevie boy doesn't want to get coilovers yet. So we'll deal with that. That'll be another video. So we'll get to that now, smashing all this off, and then we'll go over the rotors and all the other shit. Alrighty, so to get the caliper off, there's 2 bolts. You'll need a 15mm snocket and your strap-on ratchet here. You get in back there and undo those 2. Now we've got a bucket here, so then when we take the caliper off, we can let it sit. Alternatively, you could zip tie it up here or fold it back here, or just let it hang on the floor if that's how you want to roll. So once they're off, the calipers might be a little bit stuck on here. They probably won't be, but they could be. Just if they are stuck, just lever it off. Also, make sure no one touches your brakes while the caliper is off. Otherwise, you'll compress them, and of course there's no disc between it. It'll shoot the pistons out, and then you'll have fluid everywhere, and you'll have to probably re-kit the caliper. Oh, it is toasty in here today, mate. Even with the little mini fan we've got, it's a bit roasty. I don't know, you probably didn't see that because they don't have a recording, but once I undid that back bolt, this whole thing's come off. That's normal. So now we'll yeet this off, put it on our little bucket so it doesn't put... the only reason why I put it on the bucket is so that we're not putting extra tension on our brake, the rubber brake line or whatever sort of plasticky shit that is. So we'll rest that on there, then this will just come off. The fronts are easy enough, a 2-year-old can do it. In fact, when I do have a child, I'll make them do it just to prove how easy it is. Now, next step, chuck on our new things. So what I also would like to talk about is the work area. When you're doing anything with brakes, make sure you have a clean rag or like a bit of cardboard or something so you can put all your stuff down onto it. Don't go putting friction stuff like a brake onto the ground where there could be contaminants, and always make sure that you clean all this shit before you chuck it together, which we will go through now. When you got all your discs and that off, it's a good time to check your wheel bearings. So easy way to do that is grab the top and the bottom and give it a wiggle, side to side wiggle, just to wiggle it around. If there's any play in there, that's not normally a good thing, so you have to take it off. Also another way is just to spin it and see if there's any notchiness. Put a bit of load on it, spin it. If there's any notchiness, it normally means the bearing is stuffed. We're not going to obviously strip that apart because we don't need it stripped apart. Okay, so these are the new rotors. So since these have been shipped to us, we're not sure what they've put on here. So we just get a bit of brake cleaner of some sort, give it a quick spray, just around it, and then get yourself a clean rag and just wipe off the schmutz. Now, like I said, we've got a clean rag underneath too, so it's not sitting on the ground, because we don't know what oil and shit's on the ground. Spin her over and give it another spray and put it together. Now, always make sure to keep your hands as clean as possible when assembling brakes. My hands are a little bit filthy now, so that was just more of a demonstration. Once it's on the car, then I'll give it another spray and another wipe over just to double check to make sure. Also, obviously, we're checking the pads. Since this thing's just got new pads on it, there's nothing to worry about. The point, just to see it in there, that's your pad itself, and then there's the holder for it, or the plastic, you know what I mean, the metal shit they put it on. So, shut up, Steve. So when they start to squeak, that's normally when it's down at the very bottom here. So that's, if you're going to check your own brake pads, that's sort of what you're gauging off, is that groove that's in there. And yeah, so that's what a good set of brake pads look like. So we'll now assemble this in the reversed way we've just done it, which is pad on, caliper on, bolt it all up. Obviously you're cleaning it and shit beforehand. And then wheel on, and then we're sweet. Now remember, when doing up your brake components, you want everything to be really tight. A good way to make things really tight is to cross-thread them in. So I've heard a thing that cross-threading and Loctite is the same thing. That is very true. So make sure you put the bolts in on a slight angle so they cross-thread into the actual mounts, so that they never come loose. But in all seriousness, make sure everything is tight as shit, because these are what you use to brake. And if you don't have tight braking components, you're not going to stop, and then you'll hit a wall. There we go, all back together. That looks scrum diddly umptious. Next step, jack the back up and get it done at the back. So for those of you who don't know, you need to do wheels up in a star pattern. So that means that way, not around. If you do it around, the wheel won't sit on the hub nicely. So you've got to do it in a star pattern. For those of you who don't know. And if you don't know how to do that, you shouldn't probably be doing brakes. So yeah. All right, now the front's all done. Move on to the back. Backs are another set of DBA. You can get all your DBA shit from Auto One as well. They are a supplier of DBA. So here these ones are. They're not as impressive because they're a bit smaller, but still just as good. You can see on the inside here, that's where your brake shoe runs, or your handbrake shoe runs. So we'll go through that once we get it all apart. Okay, so once you got the backs off, obviously it's not going to turn because the handbrake's on and it's in park. So, because it's an automatic, obviously. So what you need to do is take your handbrake off, put your gearbox in neutral, whether it's a manual or automatic, make sure it's in neutral so you can spin all this shit. Also, this little donger here, you can pull that out, and then there's an adjuster in here. So if your handbrake isn't working right, you can take your handbrake off, move this around to the adjuster, get a screwdriver in there and give it a bit of a tickle till it tightens up, and then you can go and check your handbrakes. So basically we need to do that now, and then to pretty much do what we did before, take this off, put this back, and then this should come off. But yes, you're not going to get this rotor off without the handbrake off, because obviously the handbrake pads are pushed up against here. So we'll do all that now, put it in neutral, and then we'll pull this rotor completely off. All right, so we've undone this caliper now, yeet it off. There's a little holdy thingy up in here, so we'll just undo that out there, pass this through here. We'll just pass that through that and rest it down on our bucket. Oh, that's not gonna bring it up. Rest it up here so it's out of the way. Rest that there so it's out of the way. That's not going to move, it's all locked in place there. The pads on this are fine too. I believe those are also the Bendix Ultimates. Now, as I was saying before, you're not going to get this off without the handbrake off. So we've done that, and then you might also find they are jammed in depending on how worn the inside of the drum is. So if you want, you can deadjust, that was some good English there. Get in there, deadjust the pads themselves so you can then pull it forward. Maybe give it a tap with the hammer. Because we aren't worried about keeping these, we might just yeet them with the hammer, but we will still need to deadjust it to get it off, hopefully without damaging the handbrake pads themselves. So the easiest way to get this little plug out, for those who don't know, get your flat blade in there and yeet it out like that. Boom. So now you can see inside of it. So we will get a spinner, and that's not the best angle to look inside there, and we'll spin it around until we can see the adjuster. Okay, I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up, but there's the adjuster in the hole there. Whoop, whoop. Yeah, see those cogs? So you need to spin those cogs, and then what that'll do is that'll unadjust the handbrake. So, all right, so with a bit of persuasion with a 4-pound hammer, we managed to get the disc off. Now, as we've got it apart, you can see a bit better what we're talking about with the adjuster. It's right here. So you wind that in and out, and it adjusts how far that goes out. So yeah, that was a bit tight. So we did yeet it with the hammer a fair bit, but like I said, we're not keeping these rotors, so we weren't too fussed. So next step, obviously check these, make sure they're not too worn, which they look pretty good. And that's the back all put back together. Now all that's missing is some Brembo brake caliper covers. So yes, that's pretty much how you do that. I know it wasn't a very interesting video, but just something to do in the meantime. Yes, we'll smash the wheels on and then we'll take it for a test drive to make sure the brakes actually work. Depending on your brakes, you will need to bed them in. I know a lot of the new pads you don't need to bed in, but I still did it with the FGX. Just drive real fast, slam the brakes, get them nice and hot a little bit to get them happy. So we'll go do that real quick. Okay, car is back on the ground. Oh, had a lovely drink of water, it was delicious. So car's back on the ground. We're now going to go for a test rip to check the brakes. Make sure you test them slowly first, like in a slow area. Don't go sending it down the road and then hitting the brakes, because you know you might not work. So we'll go do that now. We're going for a drive to test the brakes. We're not obviously going to show you where we're driving, because we don't need people coming in to where we live. So if you know where we live, don't come say hi. Just wait till we have a car meet. So yeah, we're just going to cruise around, just test the brakes a little bit. Once we know they are all sweet, we'll give it a good rip and then slam the brakes on just to make sure they're all happy. But they feel pretty good, don't they, Steve? They're good. They're good. So yeah, I don't know how we're meant to film testing brakes, but yeah, we're just cruising around, just testing the feel of it all. Handbrake feels good too. We're not testing that while we're driving, obviously, but it holds. Oh, look at this person, cut the corner. Purple shirt wearing idiot. Alright, you're going to give it a rip. Have you turned traction control off on this rig yet? Such a different feel to a turbo, because you're not getting that initial and then you're getting thrown back. It's just all thrown back. You just use the full tank of fuel doing that, which is great. Oh, they are some good brakes, mate. They are some good brakes. Just something about a V8, I can't get a smile off my face, just something about it. Well, that's it for this little video we've just done. We're going to try and get a bit more content on the XR8, since we haven't got a V8 in the channel, but we do now. So we'll try and do some more content on it soon. But that's it. Thank yous for watching, keep on boosting, and we'll see you next time.